Okay, thanks everybody. I'm Kevin Foster from the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta, and as I start, I just want to say that the views that I say here today are mine alone. They're not part of the views of the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta, nor the Federal Reserve System, nor USC, because we used their survey to collect our data here. And this study was we added some questions to the COVID survey that Ari talked about earlier this morning, and it was motivated by basically the plot you see here, which is that at the beginning of the pandemic, the year-over-year increase in weekly increase in cash shot up more than we've seen since the run-up to Y2K, and so we wanted to know what consumers are doing with that cash. Consumers are just a small part of the cash equation, but you know, it's something that our surveys that we run at the Fed and the ones that that UAS is running here are uniquely can track really well. So here's some information. It's the survey. The main part of this slide is that the survey was done by us at the Atlanta Fed and the Cash Product Office at the San Francisco Fed. So these plots that you see here are, we ask people, so we have a diary that we run in October of every October. So we're in the field right now, but the most recent data we had was 2019. And so we compared the diary data from 2019. Did you get extra cash or not? And during the pandemic, 12% of the respondents said they got extra cash. And you can see that before the people that did not get cash, they have about the same amount of cash both during 2019 and during COVID, but the people that got cash, they have a lot more cash. I mean, they went from having you know, $80 in their wallet or so to more than 120. And this is very similar to what we see when hurricanes come through. We have done surveys there, and it's pretty much the same exact percentages, about 10 or 11, 12% get extra cash as a hurricane approaches. A lot of people had to stop making in-person payments, especially early in the pandemics, and the most common payment instrument that they switched to were cards, credit cards or debit cards, when they were trying to avoid cash if they were making in-person payments. For different types of merchants that people were forced to switch to online payments during the pandemic, especially early on when restaurants were closed down, but you could only pick up or at the window or whatever. So the most common merchants were restaurants and fast food. Almost 60% of people started making online payments to restaurants. The same thing with big box stores. A lot of these are cases where you order online, pay online, and then just go to a window or a door and pick up there. So in addition to our questions that we asked, the ones I just showed the results for, because this is a UAS survey, we were able to you know, merge it with other UAS surveys and also use the questions that were elsewhere in the survey. So we set up these models, one to determine the likelihood of actually having cash in your wallet or having cash stored in your house, and the other one was a regression that says what amount of cash do you have conditional on having cash. And so we used these questions that the UAS is asking every week to all of the respondents. And here we see that if you received unemployment benefit in the past 14 days, you're actually more likely to have cash stored at home, and also conditional on having cash in your wallet, you have more cash in your wallet. And this is where that disclaimer comes in. These are my views. I believe that this is an effect of the $600, the CARES Act that Congress passed early in the pandemic, because the people that are receiving unemployment insurance they were getting their regular unemployment benefit plus the $600 extra that the CARES Act was allotting to them. Again, you'll see this on the next slide. This was earlier in the pandemic. The percent of individuals who currently do not have a job. If you do not have a job, then that makes it more likely that you have cash you have more cash in your wallet, conditional on having cash, than somebody who does have a job. And again, it's my view that the $600 CARE Act here is doing what it was meant to do, which is to put cash in people's wallets. There's also other payments research that says that consumers switch to cash when they're in more desperate times. That you want to have cash gives you control over your spending. You don't want to have automatic payments running anymore, for instance. And also, the act of spending cash itself is more painful than just swiping a card. And so this helps people who need to be careful with their cash and their payments behavior be a little more careful and not spend as much, hopefully. If you work from home, that means that you're less likely to have cash stored in the home, and you're less conditional on having cash in the home, you have less of it. I can't explain that using based on any of the acts that Congress passed or anything like that, but maybe if you're working from home, you're making your payments online compared to somebody who's out in the back out into the real world and making payments in person. And if you got a job since the last survey, it means you're more likely to have cash stored in your home. So that means you were unemployed before, so possibly you were receiving those benefits. So I have a few more slides, but I'll just end it on this one, which if you're interested in our survey and diary, you can go to the Atlanta Fed, frbatlanta.org, and download the data from our survey diary. So thanks, everybody.